There seems to be a mini storm brewing in the People's Democratic Party following the choice of Delta State Governor Ifeanyi Okowa as running mate by the party's presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar. Critical stakeholders within the party are speaking up, either in favor of Atiku's decision or against it, as we saw earlier this week when former governor of Ekiti State, Ayo Fayoshi, and the governor of Benue State, Samuel Ortom, both went public with their dissatisfaction at the turn of events in Nigeria's main opposition party. Kenny Okolugbo is a political analyst. He joins us now for a quick chat on the aforementioned matter, in addition for an assessment on what the situation shows across the political spectrum. It's good to have you with us, Kenny.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
All right, just
it's
before
always my pleasure. Yeah.
Good. Before we go into the PDP in broadly, I want your impression on the run-up towards the 2023 poll so far.
It's been interesting. A lot of people did not think we're going to find the candidates we have found now. It pointed in some direction. For example, if you look at the APC, Bola Ahmed Tinubu came as a colossus, but there was a whole lot of gang up against his presidency. And a lot of people wanted something to shift from those names that has been like a recurring decimal in the polity. And if you look at what we are facing as a country now, people are looking at a presidency that can bring us back from, well, I use the word doldrums, take us back to where we used to be, where people have food on their table. If you look at what is happening in Nigeria now, we have never had the misery index that we have now, unemployment and inflation put together. Diesel is 800 naira. I mean, I buy diesel for most of my business, hotels, work. I'm buying diesel for about 1.6 million naira a week. That is how bad the situation is right now in Nigeria. And you ask yourself, who's going to not talk about Nigeria beyond oil? Who's going to get this alternative source of funds apart from the petrodollar? Because this is an economy that is basically dependent on oil. Mm-hmm. And you look at the price of Brent crude, it's 122 now, which is the Bonny Light. And it's not even translating, because the more the Brent crude is increasing, the more the prices of crude oil, aviation fuel is at 620, it's 50,000 naira now, basic economic flight, 100,000 for business class. Nigerians are looking at that kind of presidential candidate. So in PDP, you now had an Atiku Abubakar. For me, I was one person that was an apostle for the Southern presidency. I didn't hide that before the elections. I have appeared on a whole lot of programs, and we're looking at having a president with a Southern extraction. Yeah. The APC was also looking for a president with a Southern extraction, but we felt that they were going to get, because these are the two leading parties. We expected that they were going to give us candidates that would be different from, the recurring decimals that we have had. In all honesty, for those of us who are vociferous, who have been involved in politics and who have also served in government. I have been a commissioner before now in Delta State, and I know what it means to run an executive arm of government. So that's exactly, I think, what the expectations of Nigerians are. And so when you saw Kwakwansu leave the PDP and Obi leave the PDP, Kwakwansu has been there, but Obi has been tested in Anambra. And suddenly the Obi phenomenon is going everywhere. It's not like as if this was the same Obi that used to be in the PDP. Yeah. And you have some young coming presidential candidates now, like Sori, who has been attempting, Dumebi Kachuku, and the YPP. I can't actually remember his name now. The YPP candidate who already has a sitting senator in Anambra. So you're looking at the whole spectrum of, can these people make it? Can the third force actually win the presidency when you have those two giants, the APC and the PDP?
Well, I think when we look at the PDP and APC, we see a lot of division. That's what they have in common. Seeing the APC members defecting to ADC, yes. And now we see a lot of conflict going on in the PDP based on Atiku's choice of running mate. Wike's name has been coming up like no man's business all week. It's clear that the members of the committee who, recommended him are disgruntled. Yeah. So how do you see things playing out in the end?
The funny thing about it, I like the perspective you saw it from. Most people thought the implosion will happen in the APC. But the implosion is most likely looking more to happen in the PDP now, more than the APC. In fact, the true test of the primaries was that APC was going to be divided immediately after the presidential primaries. Almost everybody could predict that in the choice of candidate, because if APC was an amalgamation of different birds with different feathers. Do you understand? Coming together. Then if you look at the PDP, whether you like it or not, Atiku Abubakar left the party at a particular point in time in 2015, together with Saraki, Kwakwansu, Tambuwal. Kwakwansu was the sitting governor, if you remember. Tambuwal was the number 4 citizen, as at that time the Sokoto governor. And there were forces that kept the party. So you can't remove that sentiment. Those forces that kept the party are the likes of Wike and the likes of the governors that were in the PDP at that time. And now when eventually you now see an Atiku who has won back-to-back the presidential candidate of the party, there's this feeling of, you know, when it mattered most, when the party almost disintegrated, you were nowhere to be found. And suddenly now the party is back on board, it now becomes a tool. But whether you like it or not, once you have a presidential candidate, he becomes the leader of the party. But where I disagree is that in 2019, he chose his running mate. And he should have done the same in 2022. He shouldn't have set up a committee. By the time you set up a committee, you've already become subservient. You have to be subservient to that committee you have set up. You won't set up a committee and you disregard their recommendation. This is where there has been this, you know, discordant tune. And if you don't bury it, if you act like it does not exist, it will eventually come to consume the party. Because a lot of people will pretend like it all is well. But when it comes to the polls, they will do something else. And that is exactly what
the next question is like, how strategic was Okowa's choice in this regard, in terms of translating into votes?
Well, the problem here is it's not even Okowa as a person, it's a candidate. Because the strategy should have been with the candidate. Now, if you have set up a committee and a choice was made, and the choice happens to be the man that you had, you know, because there's no primaries that doesn't come with bad blood. I don't think there was enough time to heal. Maybe the healing process would have been if he has chosen Wike. That was the wisdom of the committee. And looking at the fact that he got 237 votes, and Okowa was not on the ballot. Now, if you look at what the Southern People's Assembly said, and the Middle Belt Forum, and Afenifere, and Ohaneze, who rejected the choice of Okowa, they were very clear. The only thing they accused him of was that the Asaba Accord took place under his watch. And that was because they said they want a Southern president, the 17 Southern governors. And he couldn't have been the one that would have lent credence to having a Northern presidential candidate and now benefiting from it. Now, Okowa's case was, it was thrown open. And so I had to be a party man. Are you understanding? But that has not gone down well, because if it has gone down well with the public, we won't have this disaffection that is going on now. Wike apparently is very pained, and Wike has a whole lot of governors supporting him. And those governors also have made it clear that we are not buying this. So where do the party go from there? It has to be the candidate, because the candidate, and one thing I fault about the candidate, I always say it, Atiku has not always shown that he can take the bull by the horn at every point in time. Immediately after the primaries, he should never have traveled to Dubai. He would have gone to Ekiti to go and campaign. Yes, even though the votes in Ekiti came to 67,000, and we had Anoni having 82,000, it was shameful that the party would come third in Ekiti, and eventually not even play the second fiddle, but come a distant third. If you check their votes to 182,000 that the APC got. APC got 191 in the last election that brought Fayemi, and the PDP got 178. If you notice, Bola Tinubu went straight to Ekiti, even before he came back to Lagos to go and campaign for the candidate. And even Dumebi Kachukwu, I saw him go to Ekiti to go and campaign for his candidate, the ADC, which was not a party that you could say was in much contention for the presidency. Look, people are watching. It's not the same business as usual. So now they see a presidential candidate who has just emerged. Whether I like it or not, he must want to go on vacation. You can't take that away from the fact that he's gone round, he's tired. But you must realize that there are 2 off-season elections that will spell doom for the party if you travel. And he's nowhere to be found. And the Osun election is around the corner. You can't be giving out these responsibilities at this point in time. You are seen as a leader of the party.
I have another question for you, but what you said about Ekiti, it rubbed me off, a bit like the wrong way, because, we saw international and also local observers saying that vote buying was heavy there. So can we really say that was really...
No, let me tell you, in Ekiti, there was vote buying. You can't deny it. Yes. But if you look at 182,000 and 67,000, you can only rig. I'm a politician. You can only rig where you're popular. That vote buying is a collusion between the INEC official, the police, and the people on ground. If you're popular and you have those agents that will clearly reject offers to be coerced, you can't buy because it's vote and show. What was happening in Ekiti was that they were voting and they were showing and they were collecting their money because people are poor. You can't tell them now they want to change, but somebody doesn't have a pot of soup and you're offering him 10,000 naira. He would definitely want to take that 10,000 naira and at least have a pot of soup at home.
And of course, the issue of poverty,
yes,
if not addressed, we will still continue to
so
have all of this.
So that vote buying, you brought up a very strong point. That vote buying should be watched too in Osun State.
Very good. And on that note, we've come to the end of the segment. Kenny Okolugbo, political analyst. Many thanks for your perspective on this issue. It's good to have you with us.